Hello, and welcome to the Friday Night Author Roundtable. I'm your host, Chris Baker, and during the next half hour, we'll be speaking with several very talented authors about their newly released books, what their inspiration was for creating their unique stories, and why it would be a great book to read and share with your friends and family. Our next book on the Friday Night Author Roundtable, a very interesting testimony that I'm excited to find out more about. The book is called Chased Into My Destiny by author Adam Silas from Christian Faith Publishing. Adam, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Now tell everybody a little bit about your story.
My story is a true story. It's about my life of struggling, trying to do things on my own instead of knowing who my Creator is and letting Him take over my life. And so I struggled in my mid-20s of trying to do things on my own, trying to make sure that I was good and ready to do these things. And a lot of that turned into me getting in trouble, also me getting in trouble with the law and going down a path that could have led me to a disastrous place. But in the midst of that, I fully surrendered my life to Christ. And He just took over and made everything so much better than I could have imagined.
Now, what made you decide to take your story and put this into a book? Because I have to imagine, was it difficult to take all the bad things that you had gone through, even though you came out the end for the better? Was it difficult to kind of put all that down on paper?
Yeah, it was really painful. I didn't expect it to be as painful as it was reliving those things that happened. But I feel as if the age group that I was in, I feel that I am called to empower them and mother and father that age group. And so it's no coincidence that I went through these things on my own. And so my testimony can be somebody else's deliverance, and they don't have to go through that. And so that's the need that I felt in telling my story is you don't have to go through this to surrender your life. And it may sound easy, but I know what it's like to try to do it on your own.
Now, how was it working with Christian Faith Publishing to be able to put this message out there and to be able to share this story?
It was great. They allowed me the freedom of writing my style and my narrative, and the process went great. I don't have any complaints. It was great. I had a great experience.
When people read this book, Chased Into My Destiny, what do you hope is the most important message they gain from reading about your testimony?
Man, the most important message for me is that no matter what you've done, no matter what you do, you're not far from Christ's love. No matter where you've gone, no matter what trouble you've gotten into, no matter what you think of yourself, you are not far away from Christ's love. He's only a heartbeat away. And that was something that I did not understand, and that's the main message that I want everyone to get from my book.
Well, I tell you what, that's a powerful message, and a message that I think the younger generation really needs to hear, because, like you said, there's no manual to tell you how things are going to be, and I think it's important this younger generation learns the previous generation's experience. So encourage everyone to pick up a copy, Chased Into My Destiny by author Adam Silas. You can get your copy today. Christian Faith Publishing is the publisher. You can get it at Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, just a few of the locations. And Adam, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Chris.
This next book on the Friday Night Author Roundtable, I think, is going to be a great guide to becoming a Christian warrior. The book is called Nuns, Duns, and Warriors, Come to the Light of Jesus by author Freeman from Christian Faith Publishing. Freeman, thank you for being on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. This is great.
Now, tell everybody a bit about your book.
Well, Nuns, Duns, and Warriors. Nuns is spelled N-O-N-E-S, and those are the people who are not without any religion. They're non-religion is how the name came up. They're non-believers, and they're unaffiliated with any church and actually unaffiliated with any religion. The Duns, those are a lot of times, they're believers. They're actually people who have sometimes been in places in the churches where they've actually had positions, but for some reason or other, they can't get comfortable, and so they turn into backsliders, and they move away from their church, and they just lose track of being able to be in touch with that church. And the warriors, now those are the believers. We're the warriors, and we're all believers, and we're church affiliated. And so what Nuns, Duns, and Warriors is all about is to give those warriors an identity. And along with that identity, it's a mission to introduce the nuns to Christ and to reunite the Duns with the church. So, and when I set out, I really had two goals kind of in my mind. My first was naturally to expand my ministry. I have a website out there called Christ-Warrior.com. So it's easy to communicate, and we can open up some avenues of discussion. And the other was just to get people in church, because I really, really believe that great warriors are going to come from great churches.
You go on social media these days, or anywhere, television, whatnot. It's not hard to find representations of each one of these groups. What kind of inspired you to do this book in this way and tackle this subject?
Well, what I think what really kind of got me off onto the whole subject to begin with was I was starting to see some statistics about how churches are actually closing the doors because they're just not getting enough attendance. And so I started doing some research and I started reading some books about why are these churches closing down? What's causing churches to actually be reduced in numbers every year? And next thing you know, I run into this term called nuns. And then ultimately that caused me to kind of just keep digging. Just to understand part of the problem is no good without a solution. So that's why I'm going, we need the warriors. We need people that are ready for action right now. I don't want to get 5 or 10 years or even a generation from now, and all of a sudden we're going, this is what we should have done. It's time now. We need boots on the floor. We need to act now. And so to me, this is a way that I can challenge my brothers and sisters of Christ to pick up that cross and carry it. And I think it's an important mission. I really do.
Now, how was it working with Christian Faith Publishing to get this book out there and to get this message out there?
If I hadn't ran across Christian Faith Publishing, I don't think I would have actually put it together because I procrastinated it and I'm kind of holding off on it. And when I got connected with them, they started helping me set up goals. They started helping me see what my next step was I needed to take. And it was very fundamental. Without their help, then I think I would still be the same place right now that I was a couple of years ago. I'm just thinking about it, knowing about it, and not knowing exactly how to execute.
When they do read this, what do you hope is the most important message that the reader gets from this book?
Well, I just hope that everybody understands that your salvation is absolutely important, and getting the word of the gospel out to people that have maybe heard it but haven't really understood it, that we can bring some more people to the kingdom of heaven. And the underwritten mission of the warrior has got to be to go to heaven and take as many people with you as you can. And that's just absolutely, what I hope to get across.
Well, in this day and age, that is an important and a powerful message. The book is called Nuns, Duns, Warriors, Come to the Light of Jesus by author Freeman from Christian Faith Publishing. Get your copy today, Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, online, as well as at the brick and mortar stores. Those are just a few of the locations. And Freeman, thank you for being on the show.
Hey, thanks a whole bunch. You're just doing a great thing here. And like I say, I just really enjoy talking to you.
For those who have gone through what seems like the worst life can throw at you and never asked why me, there is hope. And I think you're going to find that hope and more in this next book on the Friday Night Author Roundtable. The book is called I Made It by author Gladys Santana from Christian Faith Publishing. Gladys, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Now tell everybody a bit about your story.
Well, I have gone through a lot of turmoils in my life. It all started at the age of 5, going through different things such as being raped, been physically abused, verbal abused, emotional abuse, been abandoned at the age of 13 by my parents, dealt with a lot of rejections throughout my life, to include my parents and family members, and to be able to survive all of that with many years of feeling unworthy, wondering how I was going to survive that, and I was able to survive that by the grace of God. And so that's what my story is about, on how to be able to survive such turmoil in your life.
Now, was it tough to be able to go back and recount all these things that had happened, or was it kind of therapeutic? And what made you decide to ultimately turn this into a book and share your story?
Well, it was a combination of therapeutic, and it was extremely hard to go back. For many years, currently I'm at the age of 52, and for many years I suppressed it and never spoken about it and just carried on with life, put on a smile, nobody knowing what I was going through. So I suppressed that for so many years. So when I started to write the story, all those emotions and feelings came back. As I was writing the story, I often had to take breaks from it because I would break down and cry just in my memory, reliving all of that all over again. So it was definitely therapeutic. What helped me to write this book was I've had many individuals come up to me through where I work at. Students share with me their life of traumas they have gone through, being raped or abused, and them sharing their stories and feeling hopeless and feeling like they can't go on, encouraged me to write this book because I felt like I was able to survive this. I've been successful in my life through my career and in life in general. I wanted to share my story to let people know there is hope no matter what happens in your life, whether it's physical abuse, verbal abuse, emotional abuse, being raped, whatever the case is, you can be able to survive and make the best of everything in life. And especially when you have God in the center of your life, there's definitely healing in your life.
Now, how was it working with Christian Faith Publishing to be able to tell your story and put this hope out there for those that have gone through similar situations as you?
I had a really great experience working with them. They've been communicate very well. Every time I had a question, they return my call within 24 hours, answer all my questions, and they walk me through the whole process. So it was a great experience with them. If I was to write a second book, I would go through them. If
you're looking at the target reader for this book, what do you think that would be? I got to imagine people who've gone through turmoils in their life are really going to learn a lot from it. But I got to imagine the family members and the friends of those who have gone through this similar situations would learn a lot as well. Is that kind of what you had in mind?
Yes, I did. I actually created a page on Facebook, a page just for the book itself. I made it, and to my surprise, there were also many males that have experienced turmoil such as that went on my page and made comments on that. So this is for female, males, children, adults, for anyone. I'm sure many have had such experiences such as that.
And when people do read this book, I Made It, what do you hope is the most important message they get?
That there is healing and hope, and that there is light at the end of the tunnel, and that you can make it through this and you can be able to smile. And on the cover of my book, I had put a mountain and being on top of the mountain saying, I made it. So it's like you can overcome step by step climbing that mountain. And when you reach to the top, you can say, I made it. And that's what I did. And I feel that if I made it, anyone can make it.
There's so much pain in the world and so many people that go through things that most of us never know about. And I think it's great to have this to share with others that, those people going through those sorts of things can have that hope and that hope in the Lord. And I think they're going to find that and more in this book. The book is called I Made It by author Gladys Santana from Christian Faith Publishing. Get your copy today, Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, a few of the online sources, as well as at the brick and mortar stores. And Gladys, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you very much for your time.
If you're like me and you love a good book full of mystery and intrigue, you're going to like this book. It's got that and so much more. The book is called The Mystery of the Mason House by author Diane Winters from Christian Faith Publishing. Diane, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you very much.
Now tell everybody a bit about this book you've written.
The Mystery of the Mason House is about a brother and a sister who do not have any fond memories of their uncle's old dilapidated house. It was dark and dreary and very scary for them as children when their mother visited her very eccentric brother. Their uncle Danbury was a scary man and frequently yelled at his niece and nephew. Finding a secret passage had only caused their young imagination to go wild. Too young and scared to explore it, they barred that door instead. Now, as young adults, they were the new owners upon inheriting it from their uncle. With neither of them having fond memories of the place, they dreaded dealing with the monstrous rundown house, and before selling or destroying the house, they decided they better follow that secret passage. When they found it went virtually nowhere, they tried to find the reasons behind the hidden pathway. Mary becomes obsessed with the house and finding the history behind their family. She's trying to heal from a broken marriage and finds the house a great distraction. Her ex-husband is running from his own past and broken promises. More than once, he brings danger into Mary's life. The Mason house remains in the center of the family healing and mystery as the next generation is caught up in kidnapping. Intrigue, mystery, and life strife find its way into their normal everyday lives, and as this family finds out, no one is immune to trouble.
Now, what inspired you to write this story? Where did it kind of come from? And were you able to draw on from any of your own experiences?
My stories just tend to just arrive into my crazy brain. But the stories tend to write themselves as I get started with some ideas, and I find it quite fascinating myself that this information just flows out and goes on the page so easily for me at times. I always use a little bit of information from history, like in this case with this house. It isn't my personal history, but it is some history from that generation and things that had happened in that time.
Now, how was it working with Christian Faith Publishing to see this book come to life and to be able to have this on the printed page to share with everyone?
Oh, they've been amazing to work with, and I've really appreciated all of their help. I have published several books with them, and it's just been very easy, and they're always available to help with any problems I might be having, and they just get those books out, and they just look great.
Now, this book, The Mystery of the Mason House, who do you think is going to be your target reader for this book? Who are you kind of gearing this book towards?
I think anyone who enjoys just a little mystery and mayhem, this book will hold their attention, and there's no special age group. I believe. I think it just so many people of different ages have enjoyed my books. But I always throw in a curveball, so just when they think they've got it figured out, they don't.
Excellent. Now, when people do read this book, what do you hope is the most important thing they get from it? Is there a message that you hope comes across in this?
There's always just a little compassion move through my stories. I think that humans just want to help other people and be there for them. But I always try to make sure that the good guy wins.
Excellent. I think this is going to be a great story. And like I said, I'm always one for a good mystery and books with intrigue and that sort of thing. And I think this is going to have that. And like I said earlier, a whole lot more. The book is called The Mystery of the Mason House by author Diane Winters from Christian Faith Publishing. Get your copy today. Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, just a few of the locations online, as well as at the brick and mortar stores. And Diane, thanks for being on the show.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Our next book on the Friday Night Author Roundtable, an interesting book. I think for those looking for peace in their life, I think they're going to find that. I think this is going to be a great book to inspire hope in that. And I'm really excited to find out more about this book. The book is called When Circles End by author Selah Shalom from Christian Faith Publishing. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.
Now tell everybody a bit about your book.
It's technically a fictional type book, but there's a lot of facts in it. It's got to be listed as fictional because everything hasn't really happened. But many of the things have actually happened in my life or others people's lives, and it's just a nice story about what the possibilities are in life.
Now, what inspired you to write this book and being able to take pieces of your life and those of those around you and to fictionalize that and to be able to create this story?
Oh, believe it or not, it's my little dog that I have. Many of the things, the stories in the book that she actually does in real life, and I just want people to realize how a dog could light up your life and have such an influence on people's lives. And I'm tired of all the shoot 'em up, kill 'em stories and everything on TV, and I just wanted to show people there's something in life other than the horrific things that the movie people come up with and all that. It's kind of like a Old Yeller type story.
Now, I got to imagine if you're talking about like a target audience, this is really the kind of book that would appeal to almost anyone. That is that kind of what you had in mind, or did you have a particular audience in mind when you wrote this?
Yes, I wanted it to have an impact on people to see that God's way is the way. It's help people see that walking God's way might not seem like the thing to do sometimes, but in the long run, it usually works out to where you're glad you turned to His ways. And there's a lot of different aspects of the book. There's some Civil War type stuff in it, slavery type things, stories, and there's, like you say, there's something for everybody in it, I think.
Now, how was it working with Christian Faith Publishing to bring this book about and to be able to share this?
Oh, it was real good. It was a good experience.
Now, is this something where you might have a sequel lined up for this down the road, or do you have other books you'd like to write in the future?
Oh, yeah, I've got an idea for things that are going on the south side of Chicago. I've got a fictional type book that I think would interest a lot of people. That would show some ideas what could be done to help solve the problems there and involve these characters that were in this When Circles End book.
And when people do read this book, When Circles End, what do you hope is the most important message they gain from reading your book?
Well, like I said, that walking with God and keeping His ideas first in your life is really the way to live your life. It's happened in my life. It took me a lot of years to decide to finally put God first, and money and even some things that we think are real important, put them behind God instead of trying to put it in front of Him, and your life will end up being a lot more satisfying, I think, for people.
Well, I think this is going to be a great book, and like you kind of alluded to earlier, in a world with so much negativity, it's nice to have a good positive story and a great message behind it available, and I think people are going to find that with this book. The book is called When Circles End by author Selah Shalom from Christian Faith Publishing. Get your copy today from Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, online, as well as at the brick and mortar stores. Those are just a few of the locations, and thank you for being on the show.
All righty, thank you.
Our next book on the Friday Night Author Roundtable, a book I think the church really needs to take a look at, because it really, I think, is a lot of information, a lot of revelation into what's going on and the warnings, and that really is the title of the book. The book is called The Revelations and Warnings of Jesus to His Church by author Dr. Albert Heany from Christian Faith Publishing. Dr. Heany, thank you for being on the show.
I'm glad to be on the show.
Now tell everybody a little bit about your book.
The idea for the book came when I considered the text of Jesus warning of false prophets in the last days. And all the churches agree that we are living in the last days. And my question is, why are we not identifying these false prophets that Jesus warned us about? And what would we expect in these times in terms of what the false prophets would be claiming? And it appears to me that in the past, whenever God gave us warnings about what is yet to come, many times the false prophets would deny it and claim that things will not be near as bad as the Bible claims it will be. And we look at particularly the book of Revelation, which is the only book in Scripture designed primarily for revealing the events of the last day, of the end times. And what I'm looking at when I read the book of Revelation, I notice that it begins at the time of John's day and ends in the next world, in the new world. In other words, it carries us from the beginning to the end, and there's no reason not to think that it's in sequential order, that if it's going to list one event followed by another event, that these events are occurring in sequential order. And so it helps us to see which events will occur first and which events will occur later. There are several different questionable areas that I have addressed in the book relative to the way biblical scholars today interpret the book of Revelation.
Now, how was it working with Christian Faith Publishing to be able to bring this book about and to be able to share this message with everyone?
They were impressed with the fact that it seems to be dealing with a very popular subject in the Christian community and dealing with it in a different way than they've seen before. They were impressed with it, and I think they've been on board with it, and they've been doing marketing themselves of the book. So I think that's my experience with Christian Faith Publishing. They're very supportive of the ideas that are in the book.
Now, do you have anything new on the horizon? Maybe something else you're working on, or a follow-up to this down the road?
Actually, yes. They often say to understand this passage in the book of Revelation, we first have to understand a passage found in the book of Daniel in the Old Testament. And my position is God didn't make the book of Revelation to be a puzzle. Well, I went back and studied the book of Daniel and followed exactly what was being said there, using the timeline literally. So they're talking about events that will occur basically in Daniel's day, not way in the future. And that's part of the study I'm going through now, looking more in the book of Daniel now, as opposed to the book of Revelation.
Now this book, The Revelations and Warnings of Jesus to His Church, I got to imagine this is kind of a book that really anybody needs to read. Everybody in the church needs to read this. Is that kind of what you had in mind as far as a target audience? This is really a book that everyone should pick up?
Yes. I guess one of my goals is I talk to my focus and ask them about the book of Revelation. Generally speaking, they say that's a book we tend to avoid. It's very confusing. We don't understand it. But what I'm trying to get across is if you simply accept it the way it reads, and if you come across a symbol that you don't understand, then just leave it that way. that God didn't intend for you to understand it until it's revealed. And just move on, because there's much in the book of Revelation that is clear. And it will help us to better understand what lies ahead. And the main purpose of it is to prepare us so we can face the events of the future.
The book is called The Revelations and Warnings of Jesus to His Church by author Dr. Albert Heany from Christian Faith Publishing. Get your copy today, Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, iTunes online, as well as at the brick and mortar stores. And Albert, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us for the Friday Night Author Roundtable. We'll be back next week with another great group of talented authors to discuss their books, their process, and their accomplishments. Have a great weekend, everyone.